Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Nigel Bennett on the line. He's founder over at AquaGuard Spill Response, and he's also author of Take That Leap, Risking It All for What Really Matters. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man. So I'm excited to get into this book, Take That Leap, Risking It All for What Really Matters. I understand that we're going to go into the book, and I understand that you're donating the proceeds also to charity, so we're going to get into that too. But before we do, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing over at AquaGuard Spill Response. Tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, well, it actually goes way back. Right out of high school, I was actually working for my father's company, which was doing environmental mapping all over the planet. And realistic, like right after high school, the next day I ended up in Venezuela, mapping the coastline. And I was being shot at by the FARC guerrillas that are still operating on the Venezuelan-Colombian border today.
Whoa.
This is 35 years ago. We're taking pot shots at us. And then I ended up in Egypt for a while. And the common thread was I just saw so much pollution and so much contamination from, it was the oil industry in the marine environment around the world. And there was a helicopter pilot I was flying with in Egypt over the Sinai Peninsula. And I saw with him, he kind of snooked me into an area and he told me not to let anybody see my camera because there was a couple of guys in the back seat of the chopper and I was in the front with them. And I had my camera between my legs and he said, okay, start taking photographs because I had the headset on and I could hear him. And he wanted me to take photographs of the contamination of all these pipelines that were rupturing, all flowing into the Red Sea, and he wanted me to take these back to show people. And so I came out of that. I was working for my dad then, and I just had to do something because he basically told me that whatever I was doing, he really didn't think made much of a difference. But I thought, as a young guy, that I really could make a difference. So I broke off and I formed AquaGuard Spill Response because I'd been in all these countries for 10 years. I was working in these countries. And I had a lot of clients that wanted equipment. So I broke away from my dad, which was really tough because he didn't really want me leaving his company and starting on my own company. But I did. My dad ended up in a little bit of trouble. He got arrested in Egypt, and that's a whole book on itself there. So I broke away from his company. And I formed AquaGuard, so we would design and manufacture the spill response equipment to contain and recover the oil from marine oil spills. So from, back to the Exxon Valdez days in Alaska to the BP Horizon down in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010, which is actually 10 years ago this month. It's April 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, 10 years ago. So we worked heavily on that. And, but I joined the Entrepreneurs Organization. I was dragged into the Entrepreneurs Organization years ago, and there's an offshoot of the Entrepreneurs Organization at MIT, which was called Birthing of Giants, and then it evolved into all these other things. And I had a speaker come in, and he's Simon Sinek. I don't know, do you know Simon Sinek? He does the whole thing about why, find your why. Yeah. So Simon stood up in front of our class and he said, do you guys know what your why is? And I know your why, like what does that mean? He says, well, why you do anything is why you do everything. And I said, your why? He says, you need to know what your why is. And so I thought about it. And I was flying back to Vancouver. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. And I was flying back and I thought, well, what's the why of my business? My business is AquaGuard. We clean up oil spills. And then I actually thought about it and I'm like, no. The why of my business is not to clean up oil spills. My why for my business, it's called AquaGuard. It means protect water. So everything just blew up from there on. It was like AquaGuard. Our purpose is to protect the world's most precious resource, which is water, which opened up a whole new realm of things. And I came back and I talked to my guys about it in the office, and it was a pretty interesting conversation. So that's kind of where I am now. But I've been able to set the business up. Yeah. Sorry,
first off, your life is way more interesting than mine. You're like, so I graduated college and then up in Venezuela, then Egypt, and I'm this helicopter pilot. I'm like, what is this guy? I got James Bond on the line today, and then you look at your book cover, and I'm like, what's going on here today on the podcast? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I do want to spend some time on the book. So let's get into the book. So I see
Right.
the way it's laid out, and we're not, for the listeners, we're not going to have time to get through, go through all of this. But that being said, we are going to go through some of it, and we want you to go out and get the book. And let's actually just start out with this. So, tell us a little bit more about how you're donating the proceeds. Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, the podcast is about, mission, and I think, being an entrepreneur, in the early days, we're trying to survive and we're trying to build our business and raise a family and all this type of stuff. But I think, the evolution, and I've seen it with many, many entrepreneurs, is we get to a point in our lives like, why are we doing all of this? So my family and I, we've been involved in lots of charity work and giving, and I really think that there's nothing more powerful, for me anyway, as giving, but giving as a family. So, giving as a family, we would go down to Mexico and we would lead trips to build houses for the homeless and all this stuff. And my kids are in their mid-20s now, and they've been doing it since they were 3 years old. And so that was kind of ingrained in us. So I really thought that, the proceeds from my book should really go to supporting these charities and these causes that we really feel that we feel strongly about. And there's a couple of nonprofits that we started with. I started them with my kids. One's called True Beach, which helps. It's an app. Download it from iOS, TRUBEACH, and it allows people going to the beach with their families, kids, to report on the true condition of the contamination or the cleanliness of the beaches and the oceans. And there's another one called giftadd.com, which is, I'm dyslexic and ADD, as you can tell by the way I'm talking. I'm all over the place. So what we're trying to do is, my son is very ADD and he's dyslexic, and what we're trying to do with my coach is dispel the myth that people with ADD or dyslexia, we're not freaks, we're actually gifted. And if you look through the threads of or commonalities between entrepreneurs, there's a high degree of entrepreneurs and business people, around the globe and throughout history that have either ADD or dyslexia or both. And so my book's a life's journey on basically, starting breaking away from my dad's company, and there's a whole story there about me escaping Egypt and him getting thrown in jail, and then our ethics actually clashed. I actually figured out what was going on there, and our ethics clashed, so I had to break away. And then it's a life's journey on how I survived and built an organization. And, AquaGuard, we've done business in now in 104 countries, about 3,000 clients. How we went from, basically renting out my garage and my house and every room in our little tiny house with my wife and all my kids to being able to build this international business, but then being able to set it up. In 2012, I was able to set the business up with the help of my coach. Coach was the key part here, is the help of my coach. Set the business up to run without me. And then I took off and I traveled for a year with my family. My kids were 18 and 20 and whatnot at that, so a little bit older. And we traveled for a year, and we went to 17 countries and off the grid into Myanmar and Bhutan and some wild places, but it allowed me to do that. So it's the process of how I got to that stage. And we all, as humans and entrepreneurs, we're always so busy. We always put things off. We put our families off because we feel we're working so hard to support our family. But at the end of the day, we can lose our family if we don't actually focus on our family and take the time. As entrepreneurs, the one thing that I did learn is, never sacrifice your family for business crisis, because entrepreneurs, we're always in crisis. Every single day is a crisis. So, we need to spend that time. And right now, especially, when we're, dealing with certain things around the world that may, force us inside, and to spend those extra times, because our kids and our families they'll just never forget that. And
so Nigel,
as a family,
So Nigel, I want to take it back to the book for a moment. So what is one of the like the big major takeaways that you want the readers of this book to get from it?
There's so many little points or big points in there. One for me was my life was complete chaos. I call it the doorknob effect. I would go to my business every day, and
I was wondering that chapter 4, the doorknob effect. I was looking at it. I'm like, I wonder how. So give us more, please.
We all deal with it. I believe we all deal with it. We go to our offices or wherever we're going every day, and we touch the doorknob, and then I used to take a deep breath before I stepped in, because I knew as soon as I stepped in, it was going to be chaos. It's going to be chaos. It was a bee's nest. So what helped me there is I had a friend that was a lineman in the professional football league, and he just retired, and he joined the Entrepreneurs Organization. He literally grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, and he says, Nigel, you need help. You need to join a peer group like this. So I joined this peer group called the Entrepreneurs Organization. There's YPO. There's all these peer groups. And that was fundamental in my life shift. And from that, I hired a coach. And the coach basically held me accountable for my dreams, not for anybody else's dreams, but my dreams in my business and my life I wanted to be. And then we attained that in 2012 when I was able to set the business up to run without me, and then I took off. And that was the pinnacle of my setting everything up. So the book, there's a couple of things. A coach for every human being. I was sitting in my class at MIT with all these entrepreneurs. The very first guy that came up was Vern Harnish. He was one of the founders of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and he asked how many of us had coaches. There were 75 of us in the room, but only 3 of us did, and I was actually one of them. And he said, nobody can do life alone. Nobody can do life. You need to be held accountable. And Bill Gates, Steve Jobs at the time, Michael Dell, he said they all have multiple coaches. They can't do what they do without coaches. You guys need coaches. I was like, oh my gosh, that's extremely powerful. And that I've had my coach for over 15 years. And the only reason that I'm not, probably in an institution or something is because I had a really good coach. And I'm serious about that. He's helped me deal with so many things. So for me, in the book I talk about how important it is to get into a really, really good peer group. For me, how that changed my life and my family's life. And then the coaching side of it, being able to have this coach help guide me and hold me accountable to my dreams and not somebody else's dreams. And, and basically setting up a business to run, without me. And then so I could go on and do what I feel is really important. That's why my book is Take That Leap, which I took the leap.
Awesome.
And then risking it all for what really matters. And risking it all means I risked taking a big bag of cash from a big British company and selling my business back in 2012 as well. And I pulled it off the table and I said, it's not for sale. I'm going to keep my business. And
wow.
I bought out my partner of 30 years, and I organically grown somebody from within to take over, and so he's my new partner. And I took it off the table. I said, no, I'm not going to sell the business. I'm going to leverage the crap out of my business to do good in the world. And
wow.
That's basically what I've been doing. That's what I've been
What
doing.
What an amazing story. I have chills over here.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's a risk it all. It's like, not everybody can do, I'm not judging anybody either way, but I just mean, well, I just mean also to really walk what you're thinking and to align with your values. And I noticed this theme here. Right. It's just awesome. I love it. And not saying it's an easy decision, but that being said, Nigel, really so that being said, I can talk to you about this all day long, but 2 things I want people to go get. I want people to get the book. Number 1, of course, and number 2, definitely want people to check out the work that you're doing over at AquaGuard Spill Response and also your apps. What's the best way for people that are listening to follow up to learn more about your projects, whether it be AquaGuard Spill Response, the book, the apps? What's the best way for them to find out?
Yeah, the best portal would be just Nigel, Nigel. jbennett.com, and that'll show you to everything. And then AquaGuard is www.aquaguard.com for the business.
Fantastic.
So
hey, Nigel, fantastic. Well, been great having you on the show today. Love the work you're doing. Love the book. Take That Leap, Risking It All for What Really Matters. Really easy to find for the listeners. I just put in Take That Leap, and it came right up on Amazon under the book. So great stuff there. Go grab a copy of that. And just to remember, the proceeds of that are going to various charities. So great stuff there. And to the audience, if this is your first time listening to us, hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a review, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, definitely leave us some comments in the comment section, and love to converse with you there in the YouTube community. And Nigel, thanks again for coming on.